I'm here to tell you about myself and my story. I grew up on the east side in Spanish Harlem in a large, loving family. Life was good. I started a family of my own. I went into the army. Life was normal for me. But in 2004, everything changed. We had already lost my mother, and my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer. As I mentioned, my family's very close, so we all pitched in. We did what had to be done. It was hard times, though. I quit my job to help him through his cancer. I was starting to feel run down by taking care of him, but I didn't think much of it. We had just buried him, and I was cleaning out his apartment, and I got sick. It scared me because it wasn't like anything I ever felt before. I went to the hospital, and they ran all the tests. My family was there 3 times a day. I told you we were close. I was in the hospital for almost 3 weeks before they diagnosed me HIV positive. I was devastated. I felt ashamed of informing my family. They were supportive, but I felt dirty. I didn't know how to tell my nieces and my nephews that their beloved Uncle Tony was HIV positive. My oldest brother didn't say anything, and I took that as a sign of his disapproval. I tried my best to manage my diagnosis and continue to live my life, but it was hard. My family that was once so close felt so far from me. I was so hurt and ashamed and removed from everything. Everything my family did became a slight to me. This snowballed me in being away from my family. After a few years of managing my diagnosis, devastation hit again. I lost my apartment, and that just broke my spirit. My son had been living with me who suffers from a mental illness. So now I'm sick, I'm losing my apartment, and I'm losing my son. Everything was falling apart. My family, they tried to reach out to me to get me to live with them, but I felt like I was a disease. I didn't want to bring that to my family. It was so hard because we were so close, and it hurt so bad that I begun thinking I should just die, throw myself in front of a bus. I just cried all the time. I didn't have the approval of my family, but I heard my mother's voice saying the only approval I needed was from God. And I thought to myself, I didn't even have his approval. Suddenly I was alone. I had no home to call my own. I found myself living in the shelters. I had nobody else to go. Everyone says that it'll get better. But when you're living in a shelter where you don't want to put your feet on the floor because of the rats and the roaches, it's hard to believe that. I remember keeping all my stuff on the bed so it wouldn't be on the floor. I remember going into the bathroom and they had black mold on the ceiling and stuff. I was living in the shelter system for 3 years. And I am a vet also. Moving between a few shelters, each one more gross than the next. It was so bad that I was better off on the street. I was on the street and everybody looked at me like I was a bum. And I started to feel like one. At this point, I felt I couldn't even go back to my family. I didn't have nothing to offer them. I was a street person. When you think things can't get any worse, I became allergic to the medication I was taking that was supposed to save my life. To me, that was a death sentence. What do I do now? Where do I go? I sunk deep into an oppression. I was moving from shelter to shelter. I tried to commit suicide. There was no sense in me waking up in the morning. I had no life. It got so bad that when I did wake up, I thought to myself, why didn't I just die in my sleep? I would have been better. People say there's light at the end of the tunnel. But what if there's no tunnel? What if there's nothing there? But more than that, I thought to myself, I deserved this because I became HIV positive. I was in one shelter and the counselor said something about Harlem United. He can tell I was suicidal. I had all the signs. He gave me a Metro card so I can get there, but I wasn't receptive initially. After the counseling session, I went up to my room and I just stayed there. I didn't do anything. The next day I realized that I wasn't going to do anything anyway, so I went down to Harlem United. It was terrifying for me to go in for the first time. It was an area where I grew up. My whole family was there. My friends was there. It was my neighborhood. It was scary. I felt like I was sneaking in. I didn't want anybody seeing me go into the building because then they'll see that I was HIV. When I first went to the reception desk, I tried to leave. But they came and they brought me back inside and they sat with me until I started the intake process. Make sure I wouldn't try to leave again. I was hurt, I was angry, I was mad, I was ashamed. I had no life for so long, so what do I have now? I was scared to live and I was scared to die. What could they do for me? I thought they was just gonna swipe my card like other programs. But I sat down and they started to talk to me. I interrupted the staff and I asked, listen here, what is this program about? And he said, you. How can we help you? What do you need? How can we make you better? He then said, we're family now, and family looks after family. So you're gonna come back tomorrow, and you're gonna keep coming back so we can get you better. And I did. So I came back and I kept coming back. That's when I realized that Harlem United was different. Harlem United got me in contact with my doctor and my insurance company. And in 2 days, I was in the hospital and I was back on medication. I began talking to some people at Harlem United to help me manage everything that was going on. I was starting to feel better. I was starting to feel that I can do this. They have facilitators and case managers that care about you. They have a day treatment program that's great. We learn from each other. We get strength from each other. We challenge each other to do better. They help move me forward. I sat down with my caseworker in the Harlem United team, and I mentioned my housing situation. To my surprise, they said that they had a housing program. And after some time, they came to me and told me that they had an apartment for me to look at. I said, I don't need to look at it. I'm ready to move in. It felt too good to be true, but it was. When they handed me the keys, I almost fell over. 2 days after I moved in, I got a knock on the door. It was people from Harlem United with furniture, kitchen appliance, sheets, everything that you would need, they brought me. Waking up in my own apartment for the first time, I felt like I wanted to wake up again. Because of Harlem United, I had the confidence to contact my family. When I moved into my apartment, I decided it was time for me to bring my granddaughter over to spend the night. It was a moment that I'll never forget. Being able to be part of the family again, providing for my granddaughter. I wasn't ashamed anymore. I was excited to share my life with them. When she woke up the next morning, it was like it's always been with her. She was ready for breakfast. But for me, it was so much more. I saw my apartment and I saw my granddaughter and I started to cry. The next day she went back to her dad's house and told my family that she just came from grandpa's apartment. And it meant so much for me to hear her say that. Right now I'm going to go through their Voc Ed and their peer program where they teach you how to get back into the workforce, back into the community. They're teaching me how to be independent, but always knowing that I have a family with Harlem United. And I'm excited about them opening up their culinary program because I cook. It would mean so much. For me to learn new things and go beyond where I am now. I'd also love to go back to school, do some social work. I've always loved helping people. And after everything that I've been through in my life, I see how much it's needed. If I can spare the next person going through what I had to go through, it would be worth it. I finally feel like somebody again, not just a number, not just a swipe of your card. I'm starting to feel like I deserve to live. And Harlem United made me a person again. They took care of my burdens. They show us that there is a tomorrow, that we can go beyond where we are right now, that we can get up in the morning and want to wake up. They took care of me physically, mentally. They taught me that I deserve to be loved and that I can love myself. If I hadn't gone down to Harlem United that day, I know I'd been dead. I wouldn't have made it. They keep people alive. They teach people that they're worth living for, that they can go beyond just being HIV positive, that you walk into Harlem United and you become their family, and family takes care of family. I like to just thank everybody at Harlem United, from Cooper to Michael Rustin to the fabulous Miss McPherson, and to Jackie Kilmer. Thank you so much, and thank y'all. And please help Harlem United help us. Thank you.